All right, here we are live, y'all. Hey, thanks everybody so much for jumping in here. I am with two people, um, both extraordinary people. Hopefully, this wind doesn't get too crazy out here, y'all. Hopefully, you can hear me. I've been doing a lot of these interviews as of late, and I think it's very important that people hear not only, I don't consider myself an expert at anything, but I really think it's a blessing and a benefit to everybody out there to be able to hear from multiple sources and get another point of view. You heard from Bobby a couple of times, Bobby Spags, and genius in his own way. Been at this stuff for a long, long time, like I have. And today you're going to hear. You heard also from the homesteading pastor, also hitting things from a different perspective. Now you're going to hear it today, y'all, from two people that combined are the impresarios of independence, as far as I'm concerned. And they got a very special event coming up very, very soon. We're going to have a conversation, and everybody here, I am convinced, is going to be blessed by their joint wisdom. So with that said, we're going to bring on Nicole Sauce and John Willis from Special Operations Equipment. I don't know why I struggle saying that. How are y'all doing today?
Great.
Good. Yeah, good.
Okay, good. Radio check. Can y'all hear me? Is this wind kicking up too much? If it is, I'll have to roll inside Billy's Jungle Palace of Love over here.
Man, I hear you fine, and I'm assuming I probably hear the same thing everybody else hears.
Okay, good. All right, so we got people filing in right now on, when we scheduled this interview and I asked you guys to come on, I had no idea that it was going to be a holiday for most people. So I'm glad you guys could overlook that, and I'm glad everybody's on here. So real quick, shout out to Carrie, Edward, Nana Blue, Gary, Uncle Bodie, Mr. Bagby, Vicky Savage, you're always there. We love you too, Vicky. Gary, Homestead Glamour Girl. Okay, I was on just a little while ago with Nicole. John jumped on right before we got on live. Y'all, we're going to have an organic conversation, and we're going to basically go in any direction this conversation goes. But first off, I wanted to start with Nicole. I want everybody, there's a lot of people here that probably don't know who you guys are. And trust me, y'all, you want to check them out. You want to check out their YouTube channels. Nicole's is Living Free in Tennessee. John's is SOE. He goes live. And honestly, I need to have this guy pay me, dude, because I'm over here losing sleep and money every time he's up doing a live, walking around his shop. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, this dude is busy, man. He is on his bicycle, and he's going to get up in the AM and get it done. So, look, y'all, you're going to learn a whole lot of cool stuff. Let's start with Nicole. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Nicole, and then we'll switch over to John.
Well, I started life thinking I'd be a public education teacher, teaching German and music. I have a degree in both German and music, and then I got the education degree. And during that time, realized I could never work in the government schools. And so there I was with degrees, like all the credentials in the world, not wanting to do the career I had just spent my life doing. So I ended up doing executive training for about 10 years, just working with different companies. And then I discovered that, so I thought I was a communist, lived in Portland, Oregon, and then they put the choo-choo train in, the light rail system. And I started digging into how that all worked. And it's like really expensive and really slow. It made a commute for me go from on a bus, right? I was all about the public transportation. It made my commute go from 25 minutes to an hour and 25 minutes because you had to go here, and here to get to where it used to be just a straight bus. And I thought, well, that's messed up. If I was in charge, this is how I do it. And I was like, wait, that wouldn't be fair if I was in charge. Then somebody has to be in charge. And I went from, in like one day, just having that thought, from being kind of communist, socialist leaning to libertarian. And I transitioned out of executive training into the free market think tank world, worked on public policy for 14 years, and then had another realization. Voting harder does not work. The whole time I worked in the liberty movement, we would have like incremental changes in empowering parents to be able to make more choices for how their kids learn in the government schools, for example. And we'd win there and we would lose 9 other places because the system is created to further itself, right? Hey, Dixie Living Homestead. Somebody said hi in the comments. Anyway, and that was when I realized I needed to change. And so I started a podcast called Living Free in Tennessee that's focused on telling the stories of what it's like here, living on a homestead and starting my own business and choosing freedom every day. And that has grown. I've launched a coffee business called Hollow Roast Coffee that's mail order coffee. And I've made the decision that if I can empower one person who empowers one person and they empower one person to choose freedom in their life, to choose liberty, then that's more successful than 14 years in the policy world trying to beat our government back.
That's what I'm talking about. Man, it's amazing the journey we have here and how, I guess if you're a thinking person, you always circle back to freedom, or at least you should. I mean, if you're outside of Plato's cave. Thank you so much, Nicole. John, let's move on to you, bro. Why don't you give a rundown for the people out there that don't yet know you?
So I have a company I started 35 years ago named Special Operations Equipment. It's the name of the company. And we build nylon tactical gear. And we started originally just doing stuff with SEAL team guys because that's where we were in San Diego. And that's the base we were closest to. Fast forward, years later, we're up by Camp Pendleton. So we have that audience, and still NSW, the SEALs still train on base there. So that's kind of where it started. And then law enforcement started using our stuff. And then social media came around. We were early in on, all the forums and the groups online. So we had a big following around the world, and we were shipping out, to 52 different countries, to dealers around the world. So we had audience everywhere from that. And I moved to Tennessee 15 years ago, and then social media came to be. So I just started saying things on social media. Nobody really realized how it worked because in the beginning, you just did whatever, and there was no throttling back. Nobody cared what you did. And you could maybe say something and people would stop doing business with you, or you could say things and people would share it and you get a lot more business. So I never realized how to manipulate it in the beginning. I just said stuff that seemed right to me. When people would say something hateful to my wife, I would read their emails and we would put their phone number out and I would use their name as a discount code. And I would say, hey, here's 20% off, but everybody that orders, you have to tag this guy in it. So we would literally, from the massive audience, we would shut down their whole ability to even do business on their end. And then that all changed, right? But that's kind of where we had a massive following. And then we had dudes standing around in the morning. Uncle Lance, a friend of mine, he was kind of walking across the United States just to kind of say goodbye to everybody. He was doing some things, and we just got him to nest with us for a couple of years. And he said, hey, why don't food, motion is lotion, and, food is your medicine. So he wanted to do all these homesteading projects and stuff. And we kind of were. I just said, okay, if you were going to do this, you're going to do it. So he did. And before you know it, we had a barn we had a farmyard at our old little shop up the way, which was, half an acre, if that. So we're having eggs every morning. I'm cooking for every employee that wants breakfast. I'll cook breakfast. We'll cook lunch. If you have to go to the gym, I pay your gym membership. You get paid. You stay on time clock. You literally just 90 minutes out of the day, you are at the gym to and from, and then at the gym 90 minutes. And it changes your pay cycle in no way at all. You just leave the property for 90 minutes. So, and then we're feeding them real food, real food. So we were doing videos in the morning, and we would just do these breakfast videos. And it's just me the office was an old, 1-bedroom apartment that had a kind of a warehouse on the end, a little tiny warehouse on the end. And I would stand there on a hot plate and cook, 60 eggs every morning for everybody. And we would just have a conversation about whatever it was. And then people would comment because there was no live feed yet. So people would comment on YouTube is where we were. Well, no, it was on Facebook. And we would take their comments and read them off the next morning, and it would become a whole nother conversation. So to put your input in, you had to participate today, and then we would read it tomorrow. Kind of like a YouTube video works now. But we just had a huge, huge following, and dudes started moving here from all over the United States. Dudes were I'm like, what are you doing here? I packed up my car and I came from Alaska. What are you here for? To work for you. I don't have a position for you. So we just started creating positions. We had a lot of people. And then during the COVID stuff, we would have these big, huge parties here with, 900 people. And then during the COOF, we kind of did 2 low-key, no advertisement, and we still had a couple hundred people show up here for even during the lockdowns. And everybody wanted to see the hydroponics. They wanted to see the animals. They wanted to see the property. Nobody cared that there were no bands and there were no food trucks, and there wasn't. Usually we have 48 belt-fed machine guns out here. We didn't have none of that. People were hungry for how to do kind of what is just normal everyday life for us. And I knew Nicole from Jack from the very beginning, Survival Podcast. We sponsored that show from day one, sent him tons of product and stuff. We used to play it in the old building. We had speakers up in the whole show floor, and everybody would listen to the show. So it was just kind of a way of life from day one. And now it's just, we have even more reach. I do a live feed every night at 9:00. I have Instagram, Facebook. We put out different content, kind of different places. But that's it, man. That's really it. I just do what I think is right. And I really try to do absolutely nothing that I don't want to do in life. Just, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm kind of the belief right now, don't ask permission, just do it. And then we'll figure out how to maneuver around it if it ever becomes a problem. And then I just dudes are constantly like, hey, I wish I could have this. Then why don't you have it? Well, then you really don't want it, right? Because I went to prison, went to federal prison, came home with nothing. And even on probation, made $1 million my first year home, starting with absolutely zero. Didn't have Social Security, nothing. So I just don't understand the I can't idea, or I want to. If you want to, then let's figure out how to do this.
That's why it is such a joy to have you two on here, because I'm getting all these emails by and large, and I'm sure you two, and I know Nicole has gotten them too, of so many people that feel disempowered, so many people that feel I can't do it. And John, I know that when I'm in the same room with you, man, I can't wait to give you a big hug. I live on Chestnut Mountain. It's not Brokeback Mountain, but I'm going to hug you just the same. No, I mean, this is why I am so excited to be in the company of you two. And, on the same token, we got my friends, my good friends and mentors, Deep South Homestead in the house, where they share exactly the same. Danny, you want to have the same exact mindset. I guarantee you would love to be in the same room with them. This is why I love spending time with people like you and Nicole and Deep South. And also, by the way, I'll be praying for you. Can't think of your name right now. There was a lady in here needing some prayers, and don't worry, Vicky, yeah. Don't worry, I'll make sure I add that to the list tonight. But getting back to it, I mean, I'm sitting over here, man, and my heart's just pounding, man. This is exactly what everybody needs to hear, instead of this, woe is me, the world is falling apart, everything's screwed up, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. And John, you just hit it right there, man. Get loose or get lost. At the end of the day, I mean, like you said, if you just got out of the joint and all of a sudden you're out here hopping and popping and making a living that almost anybody would envy, doing things that's really undreamed of to most people, then I don't want to hear from anybody else at this point that I can't do it. If I came from the background I came from, where we put the funk and dysfunctional, grew up in a very abusive household, had a lot of screw ups in my life, and I can get to the point now where I'm managing 3 businesses. Yeah. Nicole, you started out as a red diaper doper baby and wound up doing a podcast called Living Free in Tennessee. I don't want to hear from anybody out there saying I can't do it, which brings me right into, I want to jump in because there's going to be people in and out. I want to make sure we cover it right off, and then I want to get into the empowerment section of this. You two have a event coming up, and folks, you're definitely going to want to know about this because there are a few tickets left. It's going to be the SelfReliance Festival. That's going to be June 11th and 12th. Y'all want to go in there and tell people? We'll come back into the empowerment thing, which is what I'd like to. I can't stand. I don't know why I've been saying it, but we'll circle back to it here in a little while.
She don't work there no more.
But that being the case, can you guys tell us about what's going on at this festival, what the costs are, how people can get tickets, and how many tickets you got left? Is there availability? I think it's going to, after this broadcast, I think you're probably going to sell out once you tell them what they get for the money, because it's extraordinary.
Well, if you'd like to take a nice trip to Tennessee, and if you're in the city looking for places to get away from the city, Tennessee is one good option of a state you could move to. So you could pair this with also looking for somewhere to move away to. But in Camden, Tennessee, at Special Operations Equipment Campus, we've started putting on an event that we call SelfReliance Festival that's focused on a couple of things. One, we want to help people link with skills, right? Like we have a blacksmithing demonstration. We've already had one person who went to the first SelfReliance Festival and she spent the entire event just fascinated with blacksmithing. Now she's doing it, right? And so now she's part of that demo 2 events later. Wow. So anything from that to basic preparedness skills to more advanced things like distilling alcohol for fuel. That's an important skill you might want to have if you're not able to reach your supply lines. All sorts of different things. We've got great speakers like Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast is coming out. Dr. Ken Berry is going to talk about the proper human diet that's taking control of your health. Because a lot of what we do when we talk about preparedness is we go pew, 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 and then we talk about food, but we don't talk about fat and how that's holding us back from getting things done. When I hear John tell his story about paying employees to go to the gym, it does change your mindset to get your pulse up every day. If you get up and you go for that walk, you're right, like out of the chute, you're getting the blood going. In fact, in my network, because John and I cross networks, my people have started saying, I'm John Willising it today. I woke up super early, couldn't get back to sleep, so I just got my butt out of bed and started going and doing something because I figured, if I go back to sleep, then it's going to be 3 hours later. I'm going to be tired all day. That's called John Willising your day, just in case you've become a verb now, John, just so you know. So SelfReliance Festival is June 11th, 12th, $60, selfreliancefestival.com. You can see some of the people speaking. We're actually adding a bunch of speakers right now. Mama Sauce is updating the website in the background. There are probably maybe 100 tickets left. I think we're going to have 500 people there. If you want to learn how to process a pig from a master teacher, though, Mr. Billy Bond of Permapastures Farm is coming out on June 10th. And we're going to take a pig that's running around, and it's not going to be running around by the end of the day, and it's going to be in pieces. And then we're smoking that pig, and we're going to have some pulled pork sandwiches at the event. So it's going to be, if you want to do 2 events, that's $135, includes lunch. That one does. It's a catered lunch. And then we also have a really cool processing manual that we've been collaborating on that you get to go home with. So that's SelfReliance Festival. Again, it's selfreliancefestival.com.
You know what I think is really cool about this? First of all, this is one of the very few festivals I've ever seen or been a part of. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's on private property, right?
Yep.
Right. That being the case, you don't have to, like you said a minute ago, John, you're not asking for permission. I don't think you were asking for permission either way. But, and by the way, I love that t-shirt of yours. If you don't sell it, I mean, if you sell it, bro, I got to get one.
We'll bring it back. We'll get you one, man. I would say you're also going to get to meet Billy. Like, you come out to this thing, you guys all watch Billy. I don't know how many of you have actually shook hands with him. He's going to be here. So come out and see him. This property, I believe that a lot of us watch guys on social media and you see a sliver, right? You see a studio or some product reviews. Anything I have put in any of my videos, it's all here. Like, I have 10 acres of property here, and we use it. And when we bought this property 6 years ago, it was a gravel pit. There was nothing here, no soil. There wasn't anything. So if we can do what we did here, like, nobody has any excuse whatsoever not to be able to make things work. We took something that never should have been able to happen. Like, imagine taking a Walmart parking lot and turning it into, you know, the perfect garden spot, because that's really what we did. But it's all here. And we can walk around and we can talk and have a conversation. When you come here, you might not have any clue who we are or what I do here, but there is something here that we will have in common, that we will have a conversation about. And that could be anything you're into almost. There will be something here to relate. And when you walk away, you might not become a customer, but in the future, we might do business in some other capacity. But there's a ton of stuff here to do. And you can see, if you've ever watched any of my videos, and I have, there's over 3,000 of them at this point. Everything you see is here. We still have it. We own it. We didn't rent it. It's all here, and it was all done by hand.
Bro, you know what? My wife had to make me take my phone and put it out here. Well, for a couple of reasons. Danny at Deep South told me a while back what these phones were doing to me. But man, I was sitting up here laying in bed. I'm usually doing business until midnight half the time. And I'm laying in bed, and I know you two could probably relate to that. I'm in here answering questions, doing whatever. And then I say, okay, well, let me go over to YouTube. And I see John walking around, and I'm like, it's so engaging because you're walking around this shop. I'm like, dude, this is like the master man cave. I see weight equipment. I see all kinds of tactical stuff. And I got to say, I know Danny from Deep South is watching right now. And I think he's probably going to attend the second he heard deep belt-fed machine guns. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. But what I love about the fact is that 9 times out of 10, these things occur on fairgrounds or something like that. And you get all these restrictions of everybody telling you what you can and can't do. And and having watched enough of your live streams, I realized that you don't play that game. So not only are we going to have these classes that are going to be going on there, the fellowship, which is what I desire most, because when I go in a room, great conversation is the first thing I look for and the last thing I find these days. And I know that I'm going to have a lot of it in a place like that. So I would imagine there's also a fair amount of networking going on at this thing.
Huge. That was the whole theme last time, was underground networking.
Yep.
And really, it should be every time. Really.
It is this time too. It's here's the deal. People are freaking out about shortages, and they're calling me and saying, hey, I want to have cows. I want to have pigs. I want to have sheep. We were talking about this before we got on. I want to have chickens, and I've never touched soil in my life. That's not something you do in a week. But if we establish an underground network, if we establish trusting relationships, you can still source things. You know, storing up and having some supplies on hand, really important. It's important to do that in a methodical way that empowers you. But the question we should be asking when we're worried about shortages is, why can't we produce shoes here? Who's producing shoes here with things here? Who's producing tactical equipment? I'm sorry, I'm pointing the wrong way, with things here. And nobody's having that conversation in the media. They're just like, buy more soup. Okay, that's going to get you about this far if you buy more soup. If you learn how to make it, or if you find people who are making it locally, then you're covered for the long term.
Well, there's not only that. I mean, there's so many different aspects and so many different ways you can go. But what I found out in a lot of these networking circles is that for example, where I met you, Nicole, at the one, you know what was crazy about it? I went out there and there was this old timer with his son. And the funny thing about it, he's like 20, 30 minutes away. He came out there looking for community 6 hours away and found a guy that lives 20 minutes away, and that's me. I'm pretty sure that sort of thing happens quite a bit there. I mean, because at the end of the day, and John, I'm right there with you 100%. I ain't asking for permission. For example, when I do my chicken tractor on steroids, or the way I feed my pigs, I use food scraps. And then people are telling me universally saying, oh, well, they won't let me take it. They won't let me take it out of their dumpster or whatever the case may be, but they won't be partners with me. I ain't asking. There's such a thing as unjust laws. And if you want to take me to the can for taking somebody else's trash, then knock yourself out. Can you speak a little bit more on how you're not asking for permission, and, you know, what modalities might that take?
Well, bribery works really well. Like, if the parking lot's filled, how much for the parking lot not to be filled? That's really the question that I ask. Hey, what can we work out so that you can bring those wood chips here? What can we work out so that I can pull up out back before you dump all this stuff in the dumpster and we just dump it in my trailer instead? And it works wonders. Don't take no for an answer. You just have to find the guy that says yes. And usually it's not the guy in charge that makes the decision. So, and I listen to Danny quite a bit. When I'm out on the property doing work, I'm usually running YouTube in my earphones, and I do listen to Deep South. But as far as, you know, you heard they were going to shut all this stuff down, and we heard some grumblings of it happening while we were here. And people were worried about driving passes and essential worker this and that. So we started building masks. Like, we weren't going to shut down no matter what, but we started building masks, and we made probably 10,000 masks that we were shipping out all over the United States, so that qualified us as essential business. But at the same time, we also brought in a bunch of 3,500-pound concrete blocks, and we put them at all the entrances of the property. We also put up a dual Sally port gate system. We also put in a big vehicle barrier gate system. So short of hitting that thing with a gravel truck, you weren't coming in here no matter what. And the answer was, no, we're not shutting down. You better come back, because I promise you, you don't have enough guns to make us shut down right now. That really was the situation. And most people, for the most part, in our small town, like, we're the last person, not because we're badasses or anything, but TAC response and special operations equipment, like, go deal with crime. Like, we have plenty of crackheads and copper thieves. Go deal with that shit. Don't come here. Like, we're the last place you want to come and have that headbutting. So it's never been a problem. We had a tax assessor come in here. Some new guy got elected, and he came walking in, and he's like, "Hey, I have a 6,000-foot loft upstairs here." And he's like, "Can I look upstairs?" And I go, "No, you can't." "What for what?" He goes, "Well, I just need to assess that." I go, "You better come back with some more guns." He goes, "What?" I go, "You better come back with some more guns." I go, "I promise you, this is an elected position you just got elected to." I go, "Don't ever step foot back on this property again. And if you do, you better come with a bunch of dudes with a bunch of guns." I said, "I will spend every single dime I have, and you have an idea of what my revenue is here if you're the tax assessor." I said, "I'll spend every dime I have to make sure that you don't hold this position anymore. Somebody else will hold this position." I go, "You got plenty of places that you can go and harass the working man." I go, "That won't happen here." And usually it's just saying no. No, you cannot come in here. No.
Yeah, that's the same with food production, right? We do this conference called the Rogue Food Conference. And when the inspector comes, if your gate is locked, how are they getting through that gate? What, are they climbing over it? No warrant? Like, how are they going to even get in there? But if you invite them in, then they can start writing things on paper and handing you pieces of paper with complaints. A lot of it is just don't let anybody pass the front gate.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I did a video not long ago talking about, hey, you can use natural barriers, create a choke point at your gate, just like you did, John, where in my case, I got a pond on one side. I got a hugelkultur mound that you're not driving over unless you got a tank. They all, they can serve dual purposes at the same time. As a side note, folks, hey, y'all, do me a favor. Whatever the algorithms are, that's what I'm told they are. Hit the like button. Apparently they like that. So hit the like button. Let other people know that this is going on. Tell everybody that because I'm telling you what, this festival, I am thoroughly looking forward to it, because I know it's going to be off the meat wagon. And not just because we're processing a pig, but because honestly, whenever you assemble, like Ben Franklin said years ago, whenever you assemble a number of people to have the advantage of their joint wisdom, you inevitably assemble with those people all of their passions, their prejudices, their errors of opinion, their local interests, their selfish views. And from such an assembly, you can't expect a perfect production, but you will find it come as near to perfection as you can ever imagine. Now, those aren't my words. That's the words of Benjamin Franklin at the Second Constitutional Convention. And that's the beauty of a gathering like this, when you assemble so many people who are determined to live free, not just in Tennessee. And by the way, you folks, you want to check out Nicole's podcast. It says Living Free in Tennessee, but it applies everywhere. And like John was saying, where he's listening to Deep South with his, I noticed it wasn't I noticed yours have wires like mine do. I'm listening all day to things like Nicole's podcast, Deep South, all these other, Danny's podcast as well, all these others where I can be gainfully employed and at the same time be filling my head with things that are going to help me, not just tactically, technically, every single way imaginable. So, hey, y'all, hit that like button, but let's kind of scroll on over to what Nicole felt pretty strongly about the other day when you first reached out to me the other day. And I'm hoping both of you can weigh in, because I know it's going to mean a whole lot out there to the people who aren't yet as far into the freedom continuum as maybe some of us are. And I'd like each of you, if you could, to address all these people that feel like, oh my goodness, the sky is falling. Everything is coming apart. And it might be, it probably is, but they are losing their ever-loving minds. I know because I'm reading the emails. I know because I'm seeing the comments. I know that I'm checking out, what people are writing on other things. Nicole, do you mind running off with that one first, because you felt so strongly about it?
I called you for two reasons. One, the more anxiety you put into the world, the more you get back. You get in what you put back. And that sounds magical and woo-woo and whatever, but it's your mindset, right? Your mindset affects what happens every day. And so if you're panicking about all of the stuff going on that might go horribly south, and it could happen, you're more likely to do some really stupid stuff that makes you in a weaker position for whatever happens. What is a better way to do this is go find a way to reset yourself, whatever that looks like for you. If it's walking in the woods, go walk in the woods. If it's swimming in the ocean, go swim in the ocean. If it's just finding another person who has their head screwed on right and isn't panicking and talking to them and saying, hey, can you talk me off this cliff? I need to reset myself. I don't care what you do it. And then analyze what can you do? Because if you focus on what might happen and don't focus on what you can do, you're likely to make bad decisions out of fear. And then instead of trying to fix all the things at one time, like I have a friend who put an offer in on a really large property and went out there and realized they were going to have to do a whole bunch of work to get it to where it would provide enough food for the number of people they wanted to feed off this property. And while they've had gardens and chickens, they've never run a farm. They've never run a homestead. And they started talking to me about what they wanted to have. And it was like cows and other things. And I thought, like, a cow weighs what, 1,600 pounds? Bigger is not necessarily better. It is harder. And a lamb weighs like anywhere from 90 to 150 pounds. I can do physically a lot more with a lamb by myself than with a cow. I need John's tractor just to do anything with that after I've processed it. And what if I can't get it to the processor? And if the cow doesn't want to go where I want it to go, it's not going there. And you can bribe them, but that's just that mindset of I have to cover all my bases, rather than if what you really want to do is transition to a place where you are producing more of your own food. I don't care where you live, start right now. If you come to SelfReliance Festival, and the information is at SelfRelianceFestival.com for the person in the comments that was wondering. And yes, the pork processing is also at SelfRelianceFestival.com. You will see John Willis's aquaponics system, where he grows food aquaponically. So the fish poop is fertilizing the food, and then that filters the water. That's a symbiotic system that can be made on the scale you'll see there at Special Operations Equipment. It can be made on a smaller scale. I have a system out here that's got a 250-gallon tank, 3 4-foot by 4-foot beds, and it produces a ton of food. That can be done in your backyard if you have a backyard. If you can't do that, you can put some pots out. If you can't do that, you can have herbs in the window. You can raise quail in cages. There are some very small things you can do. If you want to start homesteading and you haven't, though, you want to focus on poultry or rabbits and garden and get that right, and get the cycle of using the waste from the animals into your garden and nail it. And don't necessarily go out and put 7 new kinds of livestock into your life, because you're going to kill a lot of animals if you do that. Better is to be good at those few things. And rabbits can feed you quickly. Right, John?
Not only can they feed you, more importantly, even than the meat of the rabbit, is the manure from the rabbit. Because I have a big 4-wheeler out here with a trailer on the back full of rabbit poop that we're top dressing all these beds. There's probably about 50 of them out there right now, these big rolling carts we have, so we can move them as the sun patterns change. And when you don't know, we have so many people planting plants right now, and I see guys sending me photos, and I don't want to dissuade them, but they have way too much shit planted in this 2x4 raised bed. And they don't realize that those jalapenos are going to get up here and shade out everything on this side. So what should be on that side, they should be oriented north to south. So as the sun's coming up, as those jalapenos grow, they will shade out the lettuces down here that need a little more shade. But we don't know what we don't know. So I like to have all that to demonstrate. But as what Billy had said was, this is all by design, and people don't realize that. This is to get you to operate out of fear. What if it really is this simple, right? Every problem you have in your life, for the most part, can be traced back to a politician. And why are we calling them politicians? Why don't we call them overlords or the ruling class? Because that's what they are. Don't let them affect your life. But if we can keep you in fear, you will not educate and you will never operate at a higher energy level, right? We are energy. No matter what you believe in, it is energy. You put calories in your body, they metabolize. You are your energy. So if this is all by design, you are constantly, oh my God, we got to do this. It's right. It's cortisol. So that causes heart issues. It causes you not to sleep. It causes you not to recover quickly. I don't even know where this camera is. Recover quickly. So you're a constant mess, right? And what if it really is as simple as to getting you not to hold money, to be able to do something with your money worthwhile? And it's to constantly get you to spend every paycheck, to spend all your money. Do you have $1,000 in your bank account right now? I'll bet you 90% of these people on here do not. 90% of the US population does not have $1,000 in their bank account. If you had something catastrophic happen where you needed a couple $1,000s to save your home, like there's dudes coming, they're going to burn all your shit down. If you don't have $2,000, most people don't have it because they're constantly the next thing. And it's an addiction. When we spend money, it releases endorphins and you feel good about it. It's just like a drug habit. It's like a sugar habit. It's like any of that. How many times do you see in these prepper groups, I've got $15 to spend. What should I buy? I got $25 to spend. What should I buy? What are you buying? A bunch of plastic from Walmart. You got bins of plastic holding plastic junk, and we're not doing anything. Whereas if every single day you simply walked outside and put a seed in a plastic cup or a bucket or anything and just started growing. You don't have to plant your whole entire garden in one day. Plant something every day. Do something every day. Just progress every day. And work, that should be movement. That should be mindset, right? You wake up in the morning. I've heard dudes say in the past, hey, I wake up every morning at 3:00. Maybe that's God saying, hey, talk to me. Now's your time. You don't have time to pray? Right now. That's why I wake you up every morning at 3 a.m. Now you have time, right? Or get up and have movement. I get up at 4:30. I try to get up at 4:30. No alarm clock ever. I don't ever set an alarm clock. I wake up. And what I have found is that a lot of times I wake up at 3:30. And if I wait till 4:30, I blow right past it. So I get up at 3:30 when I wake up. I have everything I need to do in the entire day done before I see another human being. And that includes an hour on cardio equipment up here. That includes 45 minutes in the gym out here. That includes my first breakfast because I have 2 of them. But everything's done. I literally, if I broke my leg and had to go to the emergency room the entire rest of the day, come 7 a.m., I've got everything I have to do done. And it's just fear. Don't let them scare you. And I think a lot of people just like to type things out, and you actually have a actionable solution, but they want to give you a reason why they can't execute on it. Somebody today said on one of Amanda's posts had said, I really want to get one of these freeze dryers. And she's like, you totally should get a freeze dryer. Well, I can't justify $5,000. Well, then you don't want the freeze dryer. You just don't. And I get it, man. That's okay.
Yeah.
But don't insert yourself into the conversation, because I have a way you can do it. It's just if it's important enough, right? Because you can finance, and I know finance is the devil, right? But if you've got a low interest rate, I paid for my freeze dryer in under 60 days, probably. We just freeze dried candy, sold it through our website, literally paid for that thing, paid off.
And I tested that model without selling it to my network, just kind of going out. I mean, it was my network on Facebook, but not to the people who listen to me. It's a little bit slower than how you did it, but I think within a year, if you hustle on Marketplace and any other and put flyers up, people will buy freeze-dried Skittles like it's crack.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is get it for $5 for a little bag.
They kind of are like crack. It was Danny and Wanda also, who are close personal friends of ours. They were the ones that actually convinced me to do a great many things, like putting in a high tunnel, given all the weather anomalies, also getting a freeze dryer, because honestly, at the end of the day, that's one of those things where it seems like a really big expense, but at the end of the day, imagine for when you're as busy a person as all of us are, Like I said, I run 3 different businesses. That's what really annoys me more than anything. As a little side note, I'm like you said, John, you're up at the crack of dawn, and I don't know when you sleep, dude, because I'm watching you on your live stream at 9 o'clock at night. So somehow it's amazing that very, very, very busy people just are somehow find the way to be informed about the things that are going on in this world, the things that are worthwhile, and still somehow get everything done, just like you and Nicole, which I knew that just by having you on here, you were going to be an enormous blessing. But I was going to kind of monologue about this freeze dryer thing for a minute. Y'all, look, I just want to say in a nutshell, imagine, okay, you got several ways you can go about preserving your food. You can freeze dry it, you can can it, you can dry it, the conventional, the old fashioned way. But think about it. Of all the things that are going on, when you have a farm that you're running like I do, or you have so many other ventures, it is 10 times easier to cut those things, put them on the trays in the freeze dryer, throw that sucker in there, be done with it, where you take the processing of something in a freeze dryer and then overlay it with what is required for canning. It is a massive difference. It is a massive difference. And sometimes it just saves me tons of time. But going right back to what you said, John, it's funny that people, and I can speak of people, I could name names that sure enough don't have money for a freeze dryer, but had money to go to Italy on a vacation for a week. Yeah. What do you think that cost? How many thousands did that cost to get over there? Got yourself just to even go there. You have money for that, but you ain't got money to, you can't break bread for a freeze dryer. It comes down to, in a lot of cases, at least it's been my observation,
priorities.
I've seen a lot of, there you go. I've never had an excuse in my life as to why I couldn't brush my teeth. So don't give me an excuse as to why you can't work out. You know what I mean? Don't tell me I can't find the time to work out, but somehow these same people know all the football statistics out there. Don't give me that garbage, because I know that it can be done. So let's go back to, and by the way, folks, hit that like button on the way in if you would, please. Also, if you have any questions, kind of put them in caps for John and Nicole. If you have anything in particular you want them to touch on, but honestly, you're hearing a level of empowerment coming out of them that you just don't hear from most people out there. They're basically saying, get off your butt, get after it, get it done. It is possible. The American dream is out there. It's just not their version of what that dream is. What they tell you the American dream is really is a nightmare. We can freestyle this in whichever way y'all want to go, but I want to make sure I hit this other thing because I get so many questions about this other one. I'd like both of you to touch this one straight out. For the person out there who just said, oh my goodness, I just realized I was chained at the bottom of Plato's cave. I just woke up. We got runaway, possibly inflation. We got this going on over here. We got grain issues. We got all these other things. They're asking me, and I've given them answers, but I would love for them to hear it from the perspective of two of you regarding what they do when they first emerged out of the matrix. What should they do in terms of preparing their mind and also their pantries? Can you both talk about that?
I'll go.
Sure.
Okay, so let's think in threes, right? 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 days, and that's how you need to prepare. 3 seconds, what do you have to have for the next 3 seconds of your life? What do you need for the next 3 minutes of your life, right? And everything's a foundation. When guys get into this, they want to go buy a $65,000 Forerunner and put a bunch of cool shit on it. I know I've got them out front. They want to buy a bunch of guns and, 4 or 5 guns that are all the same. You got to eat, right? Your foundation. You can't build the tip of the pyramid until you have the base, and everything up here for every massive emergency as it goes up the scale. It involves everything at the base. So it's easy when you start. You don't have to go get all the cool, expensive things. But also, I want you to think about, I call it war within arm's reach. Just put your fingertips out and turn around in a circle. That is your immediate within arm's reach, right? Is it in that area? Spirko says, it's like circle of influence, circle of concern. Spirko says, temperature of the water in your pool. We can talk all day long about Ukraine and biolabs and adrenochrome and all the politicians and the little children that they're abducting, and I believe every bit of it. But immediately, can you do anything about that if you can't take care of your own, right? Within arm's reach. Can I see it? Can I touch it? Can I smell it? Can I change it? I can't change anything about what's going on in Ukraine, but everybody wants to have the conversation about it because they're programmed to it. They don't even realize that it's happening. Amusement. It is amusement to them to speak about all the conspiracy theories. I had a whole podcast about conspiracy theories. We did 126 episodes. Love it. But I can't monetize it. It doesn't feed my family, and it doesn't draw people in that I want to be around as far as in my life, within arm's reach, people that are immediately here that I'm responsible for. So the big thing is don't get overwhelmed and don't get caught in that. There are things you can do every day. You have to eat. You have to breathe. You have to drink water. You can immediately do water catchment. You can't grow anything without water. We put a 3 million gallon pond in back here. It's 65 feet deep, straight wall. It's big. All the downspouts, the roof on this building is a 10,000 square foot building at 16,000 feet. We took all the downspouts, front and back, trenched them all with pipes into the pond because we needed water catchment. We put another pond up top. All the water off of the property, we've diverted into that pond up top so that we can move water just manually by opening a spigot because the property is on a hill. So we put water up high. You guys can all do that off of your downspouts. Food. You can get, like you like to say with the rice, how many calories is a bag of rice? You can go buy bags of rice and bags of bean. You can put them in buckets. Everybody wants to get caught up on how do I O2 absorb them? How do I this? How do I that? How do I this? You go over to Thailand, go over to Vietnam. They've got huts over water, right? In these rice paddies and stuff. They have whole rooms full of rice. And when my friend Jeff asked him, why do you have a whole room full of rice? She said, because the rats eat half of it. They're not keeping any of their stuff in buckets. Oh, it might get some weevils in it. Well, then boil that shit up and scoop it off if she has a problem with it, but you're probably going to want the protein from it. Like, we worry about things because we've been programmed to. The United States is one of the only countries in the world that refrigerates eggs. Go to Central America, go to Mexico, go to TJ. They got piles of eggs just sitting out. They've never seen a refrigerator. That's some bullshit that the FDA has sold you. Go grow some chickens right now. Go grow you some chickens or some rabbits. Cut them up. Put them a sign out on the street, free rabbit breasts, free chicken breasts, right? You can do it all day long for years. Nobody will come see you. Charge $5 a pound for that shit. Somebody be knocking on your door wanting to take you to jail over it. It's about money. It's all those systems. It is about so they can steal more money from you. Nobody cares until they can't take their piece of it.
Bam. Like the way you roll, brother. Nicole, what do you say to that person that just got out of the Matrix, that just came up from the depth of Plato's cave? They just came out and they're saying, Nicole, what do I do?
I think you have to embrace that you're an addict. You are addicted to the news cycle, to the next emotional thing, and you've just woken up. It's like being an alcoholic and realizing you're addicted to alcohol. That means you need to cut yourself off, like John said. Best way to do that, and it's hard, start with a week. It's your first step. Turn off the news, stay off social media, like stay off all of it for a week. And then come back. And if it starts drawing you back in, go off for another week. Because nothing that happens in the world that is truly important to you or truly important will you be cut off from hearing about. Somebody will tell you about it. If the nukes are coming in, you're going to know. If a tornado's rolling across your front yard, you're going to know, right? Other than that, what you are being exposed to when you participate in the news cycle and in social media, like we are right now, you're being exposed to a manipulation based on eliciting an emotional response. And they would rather have you angry or anxious than happy. So when you take ownership of your happiness, when you wake up, cutting yourself off from that's really important. And then realize if you have a really bad day, because I saw somebody ask in the chat, how do I reset myself after a bad day? You're an addict. You know what happened when you had that bad day, when you went back to that bad mental place? It's like going on a bender after you've been clean and sober for 6 months. The thing you need to concentrate on is how fast can I reset? What triggered that? How can I avoid that next time? And getting down on yourself about it is a huge waste of time. The question is, what can I do differently now? If you fall off the wagon with alcohol and you have a drink, how can I not have that second drink? Right. And then from there, John's right on with his threes. I did another episode on my podcast that might be helpful last Monday, Navigating Inflation Lessons from the 70s. I went back and talked to both of my parents, and I took lessons from my grandparents that I had gathered. They're dead now. They were retiring right as that hyperinflationary period happened between 1969, and then it like really accelerated into the early 80s. And it was hard when that was happening. My grandparents in 1 month lost 50% value in their retirement because it was in a savings account instead of in real property because they had just sold their farm. And they still had a really good retirement. They had to reframe some things for themselves. My parents, one was going big picture, one was taking care of the small picture. And listening to what they did during that time when we had lines for gas because we had the gas embargoes happening, and then we had price controls, and then it was rationed and you couldn't buy gas except like what they were doing. If your license plate had an odd number, you could go one day. If it had an even number, they could go another day. My parents had 2 crappy cars that my dad knew how to maintain, and mom was there every day filling one of the cars because he had a 100-mile commute, and they had one license plate that was odd and one that was even. So all of those things came down to network, creating value from what you have, which starts with things like growing your own food or whatever you can do to create value. If you are somebody who can raise bees, honey sells like magic. Billy knows, he's got bees. It sells like magic. So any way you can do that. My dad had 2 jobs the whole time and always had side hustles going. And that's because he was not afraid of work. You can get through this. And I know it's scary when you first wake up, but learn some basics of prepping, learn how to be prepared for the things likely to happen rather than panic prep. John has a great series on his YouTube channel showing panic prepping. They're hilarious. Don't fall into the panic prep. Fall into reasonable deep pantry development. And you'll get there. There is nothing more empowering when you lose all your jobs in one day and your wife leaves you than 6 months of stored food and you don't have to worry about it. You want your wife to leave you and leave you with the food, though. In that,
that's what I'm talking. Even though the wife ran off with a go-go dancer, and there you are.
Yeah,
I know guys that's happened to. Hey, I know we're getting near the end of it, but I really do want to hit you both up about this because this is another one that a lot of people are hitting me up about, and I'm just assuming. I know that you have a mutual assistance group to some extent, Nicole, and John, I would imagine you also have one. How do people go about, and it seems for my own personal, the only one that was unsuccessful for me was the one where I tried to forward up with family, and that was a disaster that I should have saw from a mile away. First of all, if it's asking too much as far as a question or being too forward, please let me know, or just don't answer. But how should people go about picking the people they should be a part of? You know, does Uncle John, does he like to? I'm just going to step back there and just kind of let you two freestyle with that, if you wouldn't mind. John?
Okay, so if you want to attract people, you have to do things in a manner. I do things the difficult way a lot of times, and we build a lot of content around it. We can do a task in 5 minutes, but my guys will be like, "Why are we doing it this way?" I said, "Because we're going to do it this way. Because 10 years from now, when you're telling this story, I'm going to do it in a manner of how I want that story told." And that draws a lot of attention. People see a lot of things, and there's a lot of things to learn. If you do good shit in your world, it will attract people that want to be a part of that. Don't trust anybody when you meet them, right? You don't know who anybody, when I hire with guys, I had a guy just showed up here from Texas on Monday, and he's like, "I'm here to work." I don't know what his name is. I'm not going to know his name for 90 days because I don't know who you are for 90 days. A lot of guys will come in and do what it takes to get the job, but 60 days later, they're not doing what it takes to keep the job. You will see their top level and they will get lazy, right? So you don't really know who a person is. You just it takes time, man. And they have to bring something. If they bring nothing, they are grunts. So they better be really good. They better have some calluses. They better be able to run that, that shovel. They better be able to, move some weight, not care about moving things and being dirty and being wet and cold. Because if you don't have skills, you're labor. And that's how that works, right? So all these guys, like, I'm coming to your house. You're not coming here. Like, you better already have a tiny house here stocked up. You better have your gear here. You better have all your stuff here. If you're running around to other countries for your vacation, and you're buying more condos and doing all these things, but you got nothing here, you don't have a place here. I have plenty of people who will come here and live here on the property every day and do the things that need to be done. I don't have time for a dude, that's running around. I don't have a runway here. I don't care if you've got a jet, it won't land here. It does not matter. So I don't really know the answer to that. People come and go, it ebbs and flows. But if you're doing good things, people will show up and want to be a part of that. So immediately put them out. Like when guys come in here, they're like, what do you want me to do? Go outside and pull weeds. If they don't bat an eye and they're outside pulling weeds, awesome. But if they're like, why are we pulling weeds? Because if you don't pull weeds, I'm the dude out there. I was out there this morning pulling weeds for an hour because I don't want weeds in the gravel. It doesn't matter why. You show up, you do whatever needs doing. And the more you do that I don't have to do, the more money I'll give you to do it. You just have to add value.
It's like a savings account. If you put nothing into your mutual assistance network savings account, you will have nothing to withdraw. And if you're putting it in with the intention or with lots of strings attached, you probably still won't have anything to withdraw. A lot of people ask me this question who will not leave their home and go meet people in person. I'm an introvert. And when John Willis asked me to do a coffee with him, I drove my ass out to Special Operations Equipment and did it in person so I could meet him in person and we could assess each other and start developing an in-person relationship. Because as much as you can develop things on the internet and with all of these powerful tools, it's not till you're in person that you start getting to get somebody's measure. And it has to be over time, as he said. So having something instantly happen like that, it's not a thing. What it is ongoing participation in a network. I've got 4 families living in the holler that we call the holler neighbors, and we work together on food projects. I have a big event coming up that's sold out in 2 weeks that we are working like mad to make sure everybody has a good experience here where they can see on the ground what we're doing here. It's a 4-day camping event. And all of my neighbors are over here helping. We've been rewiring electricity and all sorts of crazy stuff. The only reason that I have that around me as a mutual assistant network is that I was putting good things into the world with my podcast, and I was willing to go do things, and I was willing to help people. And along the way, I got to know these awesome people. And when the place next door to me went for rent, I was like, hey, dude, you want to rent that place? Because I'd rather have a next door neighbor who's not addicted to drugs. I'd rather have somebody who I can have come over and watch my dogs, or who I can watch their dog. It'd be way better to have that than somebody who's a problem. And he rented it, and it went like that. And so to get involved in a network like that, you start small, be trustworthy, do what you say you're going to do, be willing to help people out. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you need help, but realize that if you're that person that after somebody talks to you every time, they feel deflated, you're doing the wrong thing. You want people to walk away from every conversation with you possible feeling like, right on, that was a great conversation. I learned something. Or that person asked some really good questions. I think they're going to go do something. If you tell somebody, I'm going to go home and I'm going to start a garden, show them pictures of your gardens in 6 months. That makes people like John and me feel great when we see like, wow, they actually raised the rabbits they said they were going to raise, because we didn't know you were really going to do that thing. Yeah. You know, that's how you develop the mutual assistant networks. And then you have to figure out how to talk to each other off of social networks in case those go down. Like, I know how to reach some people who are in the network multiple ways.
And that's the beauty of going to a festival like the SelfReliance Festival, which, by the way, folks, is going to be June 11th and 12th. You want to get your tickets, because the more people find out about this, the more they're going to want to go. And it's not, I've been to a lot of these things, y'all. This is why I'm looking forward to this so much, is that it's not a cult of personality. Correct me if I'm wrong. you don't necessarily have there's not going to be a couple of superstars in there, and then there's so many people that you don't even get to interact with. You don't even get to go up and, ask John a question if you're a big fan, or ask Nicole a question if you're a big fan, or Jack Spirko. It sounds like this crowd is just enough to be able, where you can still, it's big enough to where you can get things done, but also small enough to where there's at least some interaction. You feel like when you're at some of these other ones where there's 5,000 to 10,000 people out there, that your question is never going to get answered. I'm imagining that in a situation like what you're going to present out there, that you do have plenty of options. And as I understand it, there's even camping. Am I wrong on that, John? Don't you even have a camping option where?
Yep, you can come and camp here. Yeah.
Okay. So also, for some of the folks out there that I know are going to ask, are there things that you prohibit at this thing? Are there things somebody can't bring?
We ask you not to bring any animals. I have animals here that will kill your animals. We lock them up, but stuff happens with animals. We ask people, do not bring your animals here. And then if you have to ask if you can bring your kids, you can't bring your kids. I have things here that will eat your kids. Like kids get behind gates and they get their hands inside of kennels that are locked up completely out of reach, but it does happen. If you have a kid and you go into a restaurant and on your way out, you got 10 people that stop you and you're like, man, your kids are so well behaved. Your kids are like little adults. Then you don't need to ask. But if you have to ask if you can bring your kids here, I have thousands of things within sight right now that will cut your kids and hurt your kids. And this is a working factory. There is a museum here. There's a motocross track. Everything in here will crush you or, squash your fingers. If we have to have the conversation, you can't bring them. Other than that, not really.
Okay. So they can find out all this. Where is the contact information for that, Nicole, again?
It's SelfRelianceFestival.com.
Okay.
SelfRelianceFestival.com.
Okay, folks, please go there, check out both of their YouTube channels. Honestly, like I said, John has cost me a whole lot of sleep here watching. I'm like, what is my man doing at 9:00 at night? But it is entertaining, and he's covering some pretty awesome stuff. Nicole has a podcast that will knock your socks off. It's Living Free in Tennessee, but it applies everywhere in the United States of Amnesia. So you definitely want to check all that out, y'all. Yeah, I know we're stretching on to about an hour here, and I'm losing the light out here because I have to kind of do this outside. Pretty soon, somebody's going to say I was doing Al Jolson impersonations on the front porch because it couldn't see me anymore. I'll just say, "Mama," they'll be calling the YouTube police, telling them that some weird stuff was going on there. Anyway, hanging out with a couple of freedom lovers like yourself. It's no doubt going to attract some unsavory people out there that want to stop this sort of transmission. Is there anything you'd like to leave them, both of you? Is there anything you'd like to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, people come from all over the United States. We have people that fly in for these things. We have people that come from other countries. So it's too far to drive. That's not an excuse. What you mean is it's not important enough to you, and that's okay. Don't insert yourself into that conversation. People come here from all over the place and literally meet somebody that lives 5-10 minutes away from them. They had to come all the way from California to Tennessee to realize somebody lives 10 minutes away from them, or Nashville. If you want to meet people that are into the same things you're into, you have to go where those things are, no matter what that is. And that happens here all the time. Every single time we have one of these events, we got a guy and a girl that are about to get married, met here at the first one of these things. From 2 different states. It happens all the time. If you want people around you, you have to go where there are people that do the things you want to do.
Yeah, and I see Chuck Peoples just said Self-Reliance Festival is like any other event. You'll learn things and meet people that will keep with you a lifetime. If you want to learn how to suture a wound, Chuck is your man, and he will be there. So there are so many things you can do. If you want to be around a community of doers rather than takers, that's why you would go to something like that. It's definitely worth your while. If you're looking for something, if you're looking for community, it's a great place to start.
We put together a hashtag. It's SOE Do the Things. And when you click on that every day, there are people from our groups just because that's what I want you to do. I don't want to have a conversation about it. I want everybody to realize that most people you talk to online, They are not who you think they are. So I like to say success leaves clues, and there's evidence of success in everything we do because we're posting photos of it. We're making videos of it, holding each other accountable on it.
John, one more thing. There was a person that was asking also, do you have things, is everything made to order when they order from you? Are these things you already have in stock? Do you do custom orders, or all these things that they should go to your website to find out?
They should come to my live feed if they really want to see how things, like, chances are you can't be a customer. Like we sell every stitch of everything we make literally within minutes. I have a text app that goes out about 30 minutes before our emails go out. If you get on there, you're going to get a lot of texts. When somebody's like, man, you send too many texts, we just unsubscribe you. Like we're actually moving to a point where we won't even have a forward-facing website. You will have to be a new customer. You will have to be referred from an existing client. Like, we are not easy to do business with. We're the best, but I live in the middle of nowhere. I hire everybody. I was sewing on a sewing machine here for 4 hours myself on orders today because we don't have enough labor. I do a live feed every night at 9 o'clock. You should jump on there if you're interested in doing business with us. You should get on there. You will see what's coming, what's available. But it's like, you can't just order from us and stuff show up. We don't do business in the way you're probably accustomed to doing business.
That's what I'm talking about. Nicole, also tell them about your coffee, because you sent me a bag. What did I send you? I can't remember. Was it
bone sauce and honey?
Okay, bone sauce and honey. That almost sounds like it could be X-rated, but I won't go there. Well, somebody's going to make a movie called that.
They probably did.
Yeah, it's already out there. So the bone sauce, we're just going to be putting it. We're going to test your bone sauce on goats. So I've been waiting to finish this big project, and I'll let you know if it keeps the goats off of it too.
I got a goat recipe coming up. I also got a bear recipe coming up, but that's going to require me taking out a few animals like goats and bears in order to make that recipe. But also tell them about that bomb coffee you have.
All right. So I'm a craft coffee roaster. I roast everything to order, which means if you order, it may not ship the same day. I usually ship within 2 business days unless I'm at SelfReliance Festival, in which case it's a few more days because I'm not there to roast it. But it's hollerroast.com. It's fantastic. I use an air roaster, so the technology I use keeps the acid down on the coffee, and that's what adds to the smooth flavor. That's all at hollerroast.com, and you can grab Holler Roast Dark is usually what people order first.
She roasts them all one bean at a time.
One bean at a time with the lighter.
You sit out there for a second. Yeah, your coffee's like you're in the middle of a York peppermint patty commercial. I can sit there and try to emulate it, but you know what? That stuff is really good. And also, folks, you're supporting somebody. You know where this came from. You do business with John, you know where it came from. You do business with me, it's the same exact thing. And that's another reason why I'm looking forward to this, is because you can't network enough. Although business is great for me, everything's going great for me. It's a lot of these other associations that benefit me in a big way, because like I said at the beginning of this, great conversation is something that I find very, very hard to find these days. You're not going to find it in a Walmart parking lot by and large. You're not going to find it maybe at your kid's ball game that you're hanging out. You will find it, and you're going to find kindred spirits, and you're always going to find that outlier. There's always going to be that person that's as weird as a 3-headed cat, but you have that everywhere, So that's why I'm really, really looking forward to this, folks. Get your tickets. You want to get this thing. I'm not trying to oversell it or any of that. They are going to go by. The reason I'm asking is that everybody and their great-grandmother is hitting me up all of a sudden about how to butcher this. Yeah, if it walks on 4 legs or flies, yes, I can butcher it. I can do it professionally. I was trained by Michelin star chefs. I can do all those things. That's wonderful, but that's not what I'm going to teach you. You're going to learn how to do this on a homestead level. You don't need to know how to make, and me and John were talking about it in one of Nicole's podcasts before, that you don't need to know how to make mortadella, capicola, prosciutto, maybe prosciutto. You don't need to know all those fancy things. You don't need to know how to make head cheese. You need to, like Ted Nugent would say, kill it and grill it. You need to know how to do it from a homestead level, and that's what you're going to learn. That's what I'm going to teach you, and you're going to learn a whole lot of other things. Had no idea I'm going to learn how to stitch up somebody that got smoked, but who knew? I guess there's going to be a whole lot of cool things at this festival that you're not going to find anywhere else. Remember, folks, check out Living Free in Tennessee. Check out SOE. John, I can't believe, honestly, just listening or watching your videos, I can't believe that you don't have 3 times the audience on YouTube.
I'm
So
shadow banned.
go there, subscribe, and also comment. Don't just say, hey, what's up? You know, leave a legit message on there, and also respond to other people in the thread if you can. It helps out somebody like this and allows him to get that message out there. Also check out Nicole's YouTube channel. Believe me, the most consequential people in this forum, most people don't know about. So please go out there and support them. Is there anything I know I've asked you this already, but I kind of monologued here. Is there anything else anybody would like to add on how they can reach you?
SOEtacticalgear.com is the website. I do a live video every night at 9 o'clock. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I have 700,000 on Facebook. I've had 700,000 there for over 6 years, and it hasn't grown any. I have 25,000 on YouTube. I've had 25,000 on YouTube for the last 6-7 years. I'm easy to find, but you have to put forth the effort to find me.
Yep. And you can find all my stuff at livingfreeintennessee.com. That's the podcast, and it will get you to all the other things that we're doing, including SelfReliance Festival.
Yeah, we better shut this thing down, man. I'm starting to look like an apparition. I don't know what I'm looking like in your ends, but, you know, people are going to think I'm over here, you know. It's getting dark here, and I got to do this on the front porch, not have to leave the broadcast. Hey, thanks, everybody, so much for tuning in. We want to thank you so much for all your wonderful comments. I'm sorry we didn't get to, well, I don't know that there were a whole lot of questions, but thank you so much, y'all. And I intend to do this with these two. I would love to have them back again, maybe before the festival. And so hit me up with your questions that you would like to ask them next time out. Thank you so much, y'all. Y'all take care.
Thanks, Billy.
Thank you.
Thanks,